this is the new line. We've heard this a little bit from the White House last week too. It's worldwide. We're the thinnest kid at fat camp. It's like we're bad, but we're not as bad off as the others. Economy's strong as hell. And then last week he also added, and inflation, while it may be at 8.2% up September over September, year to year, it's really only up 2% if you just look at the last 3 months on an annualized basis. My eyes started to glaze over, but I recognized a lie when I heard it. So what do you guys make of that claim?
You want to go, Friedberg?
Go ahead.
You want to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I think this claim the economy is strong is going to be the inflation is transitory of this year. I think the administration, when it gets bad economic news, has a tendency to want to spin it. Obviously, we have an election coming up in a few weeks, so they're spinning it the best they can. But the truth is that there's a lot of weakness in this economy. In fact, it's scary how weak it is. And I think most smart investors and economists at this point expect a recession next year. We're already technically in a recession. We've had 2 quarters of negative GDP growth, but they're expecting economic conditions to worsen significantly next year and to see unemployment go up as a result of these interest rate hikes that we've had, which again have been driven by inflation. So the economy is very shaky. I think people are feeling it, and that's why you're seeing all of a sudden the generic ballot shift very dramatically towards Republicans for this election.
Just to update the viewers on that, there was a New York Times Siena poll showing the Republicans that have a now 4-point advantage on the generic ballot. When they have just a 1-point advantage on the generic ballot, they tend to crush in the midterms because they tend to underpoll. So now showing a 4-point advantage is very big, very significant this close to midterms. Go ahead, David.
I was going to say, I think that there is a frailty and fragility to the global economy right now. It is true. In the last couple of weeks, the US dollar has rallied unlike any other time in history against nearly every other major foreign currency. And that's because all of those global economies are underperforming. There are significant inflationary pressures and recessionary pressures at once around the world. And we do just happen to have the shortest straw. The problem is we end up typically having to step in as the United States to bolster and safeguard the rest of the world's economies. And that means that we're going to have a significant cost ahead and a significant trade problem going into the next year that is almost certainly going to hit the P&L, hit the profit line of nearly every major US corporation, fueling our recessionary problem. And so this isn't just hey, we're great, because we don't just buy and sell goods to ourselves. We buy and sell goods around the world. And so the global economy collapsing or being very shaky right now, and the US dollar rallying is not good for us. And it does mean that we are going to face a real headwind going into 2023. So it's a little bit of a, lipstick on a pig kind of moment.
Yeah,
and I think this lie about the 2% inflation, because honestly, those numbers hurt my head and they really make me want to just shut off. I know it's a lie, but I can't totally figure out how it's a lie. But he's looking at just the last 3 months and saying if you annualize the percentage increase, I don't know, but it's not true. We're up basically 8% year over year when it comes to our prices. That's what people are feeling when they go to their grocery store, when they pay their electric bill, when they go to the gas pump even still. So what is he saying? It's only 2% when we look down at the numbers and we could see it's 8.2%.
Inflation's always measured on a year-over-year basis, Megyn. So this idea that you can somehow measure it on a 3-month basis is just an arbitrary time frame they've picked because those 3 months sort of mitigate the problem. But the problem is even worse than what you're saying. Yes, on a year-over-year basis, it's over 8%. But you got to remember that last year around this time, that inflation was getting bigger and bigger. So if you remember last summer, when we first got that shock inflation print of 5.1%, it went up to in the 7s by around this time last year. The expectation was that as we started to lap a bigger and bigger number from last year, that this year's inflation number will come down because, again, you're measuring, you're comping on a year-over-year basis. Mm-hmm. So what's actually happened is inflation has not gone down. It stayed above 8%, even though it's 8% above a much bigger number last year. So price levels just keep increasing. This is not slowing down, and the problem is not going away. It's persistent rather than transitory. And this implies that that interest rates need to keep going up, and then that has a huge impact on the real economy. If I could just add one more point about this idea that inflation is happening all over the world, there is some truth to that, but I think it's important to understand that we exported a lot of this inflation, and we did this in a couple of ways. First, we bought into this whole idea of MMT, modern monetary theory, this idea that the government could just keep printing money and there'd be no comeuppance for that, there'd be no consequence to that. So we exported this doctrine intellectually. And then on top of it, when the US persisted in these zero interest rate policies for so long and quantitative easing, other central banks had to do the same thing. Otherwise, their currencies would rise against the dollar, making their exports extremely unattractive relative to American exports. And so other central banks basically copied our policies. And that's why you're seeing this sort of inflation all over the world. It also doesn't help that we have persisted in this policy of no diplomacy towards the Ukraine war. And that's exacerbated all sorts of problems.
Are you tired of feeling like someone's always watching you on the internet? Maybe the advertisers know a little too much about you, or you're concerned about the privacy of your identity. Using incognito mode will not solve the problem either. IPVanish VPN is here to protect your right to privacy and to help you stay anonymous online. IPVanish helps you safely browse the internet without exposing your private details to third parties like hackers, your ISP, or advertisers. When you use IPVanish, all of your data is encrypted. This means your private details, passwords, communications, browsing history, and more will be completely shielded from falling into the wrong hands. Even your physical location will be hidden. IPVanish is offering an incredible 70% off their yearly plan for our listeners with a 30-day money-back guarantee. That is like getting 9 months for free. IPVanish is super easy to use. All you have to do is tap one button and you are instantly protected. Take your privacy back today with the brand rated 4.6 out of 5 on Trustpilot. Go to ipvanish.com/Megyn and use that promo code MEGYN to claim your 70% savings. That's ipvanish.com/Megyn. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.